Hi, everyone. Welcome to another YouTube of Mediation and Beyond. Welcome to the channel. And today I'm honored to have a really special guest who I have followed and for many years now. Her name is Grace Kelly. So Grace, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks, Colleen. Lovely to be here.
Yeah, so Grace became an international coach after leaving her job as a teacher in London. And she's graced in Puglia, Italy, a beautiful, beautiful place, and hosts retreats where her clients can find authenticity and become more in touch with themselves. And we're going to hear about what her coaching practice is like. You can find her at gracefulcoaching.net, and she's on YouTube, obviously Instagram. I think, Grace, you're on Facebook. You have your Facebook group. So you can find her everywhere. But today you'll find her here talking about really her journey and the things she's learned and where she's landed. So Grace, thanks so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, Colleen. Me too. And, you know, I was sort of thinking about the fact that we met each other about 7 or 8 years ago
Yes.
at a coaching program. And so it's just so lovely to be reconnected in this way.
It is. It's really nice. And it's nice to, like, I remember meeting you and I really liked your energy. And so that's kind of what kept me following you. And so during your journey, you started out, and we both have that in common, having both been teachers, but you started out as a teacher and then kind of came into the dissatisfied with that, or can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. So it was a little bit of a surprise to me when I finally got into the classroom and had my own teaching certificate and everything ready, to feel so disappointed and to feel so just like I was wearing the wrong set of clothes, you know. But I didn't know what else I could do, Colleen, because like I said, my whole life, ever since I was a little girl, was kind of up at the blackboard and wanting to become this teacher. Now, I didn't know that teaching could take many forms. So I was just down this traditional path. And it just became increasingly more and more difficult to go to a job where, I don't know what it's like in the US, but I was in the UK, I was in London, and to go to a job where there was less and less teaching going on and more kind of having to discipline and having to ensure the kids were, you know, behaving themselves, and it was a lot of effort. Eventually I did get to that point in my teaching career where the children listened, and these were 11 to 16-year-old boys, by the way, teenage boys in my classroom. I finally gained a level of respect and was able to start teaching my subject. But by that stage, even then, I just knew this isn't what I want to keep doing, you know. And what happened for me was I started to experience a lot of burnout symptoms, Colleen. You know, I could remember getting on the train each day to go to work and having less energy at the beginning of the day than, you know, at the end of the day, and something just wasn't right. You know, I would get out of the classroom as soon as the bell went and I'd take myself off to London, and I started equipping myself or educating myself in the world of personal development. And so I find my energy started to come alive the moment I was out learning new things. So that all kind of started to signal to me, something's off here, Grace. And at the time, Colleen, I was surrounded by entrepreneurs, self-employed people, coaches, but I never thought to myself, you could do that. Never occurred to me,
Right.
this is the path you're going to go down, Grace. So my turning point, just to finish that part of the story, Colin, my turning point came when I was en route to work one day and I took like an anxiety attack. I couldn't breathe on the train. And it was all I could do to get off the train, go sit in a stairwell. And I just watched thousands of people rushing. And something woke up in me like, I don't want to live in this rat race anymore. And that was the beginning of a stirring for something different, you know, a movement towards something deeper that was calling me.
Well, and your body was speaking to you.
Big time, big time. So many strange symptoms, you know. I remember I would like take the day off work because I would feel so sick, but the moment that I was off work, I felt better. So it's like, I'm sure people can relate to that. And it was just like, yeah, so many strange symptoms and colds and frequent sinus problems and just lethargy and palpitations in the chest. I mean, they really started to get my attention. You know, when I was palpitating at 7 o'clock in the morning, I was like, right, there's something definitely up here. Interestingly, all of that went away the moment that I made the shift. Like, I didn't need doctors and health support and nutrients and supplements. It just vanished. And I would say my well-being nowadays is probably at 95%, like maybe a sickness once or twice a year, a very short cold usually.
Yeah, everything's in alignment.
Yeah, nothing like the old days. So that was my big gift to myself, back to well-being.
I think that's, at least you honored your whole self speaking to you. And I, you know, very similar to yours, when I was teaching prior to my officially leaving, I ended up in a hospital for a month. I mean, a large part of that, I have no doubt, was the stress of life and my job being a major part of that. Because I loved my students, I just didn't like the element of what I was doing anymore. I was good at what I was doing, as I'm sure you were, but it wasn't the way I was meant. It wasn't the space I was meant to serve in.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think once you acknowledge that, then things can open up, right?
Yeah.
And so after your after shifting, pivoting into the coaching world, where I think you started your blog first, was that kind of where you started first?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, like I said earlier, Colleen, I had no idea what I was going to be able to do next. And it was one of those things where, and I've seen this with my own clients over and over again, you know, life moves you. You just have to get out of the way. And life moved me physically as well. Life moved me to Italy. And I remember thinking to myself, what am I going to do in Italy? I mean, I don't speak the language. My partner's Italian, by the way. So he was really feeling a calling towards getting out of London. And I wasn't really up for that. I wanted out of my job, but I didn't want to leave the big city. Anyway, life moved me, and I took the opportunity to see that this was life's way of saying, you know, do this next step and then we'll see what we've got. So I had trust, actually, that my decision to leave my job was being guided and that the next step was coming. I just had no idea it was going to come through my household, my own partner saying, listen, I want out of here. So coming to Italy, I felt quite lonely. No one spoke the language down here in the south, deep south, in the heel of the boot. No one really spoke English, and I started taking myself to the online world, and I had already got this blog kind of set up when I was in London, and I thought, well, I'll just write about my experience here in Italy. I'll just write about my life. And from the beginning, I think that's all I really did, Colleen. I just sort of shared things. Again, teacher at heart, always wanted to be teaching the audience, always wanted to be teaching something. And so the blog later went on. I didn't know the blog would then become a business. You know, the blog then later went on to become the business. And we got an endorsement from Forbes, and other people shared the blog. And we kind of had this, you know, quick, it felt very quick to me, not typical, by the way. I know there's a lot out there that suggests, you know, if you're not making multiple six figures within 6 months in your business, there's, you know, something seriously wrong with you.
Right.
that level of momentum for me, that wasn't typical of people in the coaching industry. And I still don't believe that it is. You know, it was very quick. Again, I felt source on my side. I wasn't trying to strive and prove I could do something. I had a genuine desire to serve.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't know the service would become a coaching service and the blog would become a coaching business.
Right.
You know.
And so with that, did you get caught up in the because everything happened so fast? Did you tend to get caught up in that kind of, I don't want to say yet another rat race, but in a different way? I know I did when I started my coaching, just kind of, we've spoken before, kind of chasing those shiny objects because you want to get whatever, wherever there is, or where you're told that is, you know, it's always that not enoughness until you realize you're always enough.
Exactly. Yeah, and frankly, I did get caught up again. And the reason I knew something was off was about a year and a half into the traveling the world, coaching clients, investing in these high-end coaching programs, taking part in all these different types of media, whatever. About a year and a half in, I started feeling like I had felt in my day job. And that's when I knew,
Yes.
Grace, something's off here. What happened for me, Colleen, was I did kind of chase the shiny object. You know, I had that burning desire to serve, and I didn't realize that was enough.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I needed to be more.
Yeah.
So for me, you know, I invested in the best trainings, took part in the best trainings, whatever. Looking back now, it was wonderful and it was great to travel, but it was shiny object. I mean, I was spending maybe over $200,000 in a coaching programs actually, thinking somehow that the more I invested, and that was the marketing at the time, the more I invested, I guess the more worthy I was.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really knew something was off, Colleen, that I had to get off of that hustle treadmill when I started feeling those symptoms again. And luckily, I was connected enough to my wisdom to hear, just retreat, Grace. And when I heard that, I kind of thought, oh, all right. And I was faced with this big decision to take the business to the next level. It involved even bigger coaching investments. And I heard my wisdom say, no more shiny object, no more chasing this illusion that the more, the more you're with this person or doing this program, then you're safe. I had innocently kind of put my well-being or my security in this illusion. And so when I heard just retreat, Grace, that's what I did, Colleen. I just walked away from everything for 6 months. Interestingly, people kept coming. The flow didn't stop just because I wasn't involved in particular circles anymore. And I saw, do you know what? And, a few years later, still happening, I saw life really wants to support you when you're on your purpose. And it's listening to our wisdom that might go against what your insecure mind wants, that keeps everything in line.
And I think that's so well put, because it really is that first element of listening. And we get so quick to dismiss, because we get so quick to say, oh, retreat, well, that won't work, right? I have to do that. So we get so busy hearing it and dismissing it. And and you actually listened. And then obviously that turned everything around. But during COVID, I have especially noticed online, everyone is going to make $1 million in the first 6 months, or you're going to, and it's like, here, invest in this, invest in this. If you're not invested in this, this won't happen. And there's so much out there. It's one of the reasons I wanted to have a conversation with you today, because there are those programs out there, but it is chasing the shiny object, and instead of really, what is it you'd like to do? And how to listen, and then how to move that forward. So how do you share with clients how to listen, and then how do you help them move forward?
Oh, great question, Colleen. Well, you know, having worked with so many clients in this particular area, what's so obvious to me now is that everybody is hearing their wisdom all the time. It so happens that our insecure mind is a bit like a marching band, and our wisdom is a bit like a quiet flute.
That's well put.
So we're kind of up against these pieces. So what I really help people do is I help them get more in touch with that wisdom by the feeling. I help them get connected to the feeling their wisdom comes with. Because the feeling is always informing us, Colleen, you know. The feeling is always inviting us to know, yes, no, hold off, try again. And so many people that have come to me have said, oh, I have so many regrets, Grace. You know, I didn't listen. I knew it at the time, and I didn't listen. I said to them, well, how did you know it at the time? I felt it, is usually the answer. So I really like helping people get more discerning of that feeling, and more interested in the flavor of their wisdom than the flavor of their insecure mind. I often put it this way, Colleen, and I borrowed this from a colleague of mine. Our insecure mind is a bit like what I just now describe as Bob the drunk guy in our head. So you live in lovely Connecticut, but let's say in New York City, is it on the edge of each street in New York City, there's usually some poor homeless drunk guy. Maybe he's a veteran, or maybe he's, you know, just lost his way. And we would tend to walk past and maybe feel compassion, maybe give him something, maybe whatever. We wouldn't go up to him and ask for advice. We absolutely wouldn't. And yet, that's what we do with Bob in our head. Bob is screaming obscenities. He's judging, he's criticizing, he's fear-mongering, he's drunk on some ridiculous future problem. And we have been trained to listen very intently because he's loud. And so it's really about getting more discerning for the flavor of your wisdom versus Bob. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, because you have loud Bob over here, and you have subtle, graceful, quiet wisdom over here, much like what you were doing when you decided to step back. It's like, of course you had that loud, how could I step back? And it's all fear, but Bob's all fear-based. It's how instills that fear and keeps us frozen. And over here, you're saying it's the subtlety of that quiet wisdom. And that's where you can really help people kind of learn to marinate in the quiet instead of stay busy in the, you know, in the fear.
And Bob loves the shiny object, Colleen. You know, like when I think about it now, my listening to Bob really convinced me, Bob really convinced me that the more expensive and the bigger and the better it was, then that would mean something about me. That look, you know, not just look how important I am, but more like now I'm going to have what's needed to be able to help people or charge people or work with people. I didn't know it was optional.
Sorry, that just hit me. Right, because you're on that path. You didn't know you didn't have to be.
It's optional.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah.
We don't know that we can get off once we get on that path. You know, we don't know that there's really always a fork in the road.
Yeah.
Right?
And yet the feeling was telling me again, Colleen, you know, that was the fork in the road for me that time. The feelings of, oh my God, okay, I've got all this flow of clients, I've got all this money, I've got all this travel. Why does it feel like I'm back in my day job?
Mm.
So that's why, again, I really invite people to get more interested in their feeling than their thinking, because that's the thing that has helped me the most. That is the thing that is, if everybody could just learn, if somebody should have told us that our sensitivity to our feeling state is far more important than all the content and noise going on up here.
Well, you know, it's interesting because we've all grown up listening to about that, your gut instinct. But that is only for certain situations you're kind of taught. Like, you know, about a person, like if you have a gut instinct that's not a good person, stay away. But we never really have it about our passions or about what we'd really like to be doing in our jobs or our careers. We don't say, well, listen to your gut instinct. It's only in terms of when it comes up with fear, but there's so much fear in our jobs, in what we're doing, and to make that change is so challenging for us. And that's where your drunk Bob comes in pretty significantly.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, and it looks to me more and more now, Colleen, is that when faced with a problem, it's really just us thinking there's no wisdom available, whereas the wisdom is available everywhere. You know, it's not just for certain situations. Um, and so the more we can come back to this inner knowing and this clarity of direction that is available, the better our lives work out. You know, the mess really gets cleaned up. And I loved what you said earlier about listening, because it is about listening, and we're so connected to our gadgets, and we're so afraid to feel uncomfortable feelings that we never want to be alone. We fill our day and our space with as much as we can. And what we're doing is we're kind of innocently not leaving any room to listen. You know, and so sometimes I do worry a little for society in the sense that, you know, it is looking more and more lonely for people. You know, the people are coming to me and they're lonely. They're lying in beds at night with partners, but they're still feeling lonely. You know, they've got the best of this and the best of that, but they're still feeling a disconnect. And there is something about when you really understand that tension, stress, upset, loneliness, uncomfortable feelings are your alarm bell for your state of mind.
Yes.
Don't actually mean anything about the future. They're just a beautiful feeling state to let you know, Bob's in the house. Here's what's going on up here. And I didn't know that, Colleen. See, and so that kept tricking me. That's why I kept moving from experience to experience, but getting the same thing. I didn't know that those feelings were symptomatic, if that's the right word, of a state of mind that was going too fast, and a state of mind that was loud and critical and worried. And so now when I have feelings of stress or tension or upset or loneliness, I listen to that more deeply, knowing, okay, you're paying attention to Bob, Grace, and you don't realize it. This is one of the most helpful things I ever learned, and I really do recommend to any of the listeners, go check out the video recordings of Sydney Banks. You'll find him on YouTube. You'll find him on, I think it's sydneybanks.com. This particular teacher came into my life, and I've been just listening to the truth of that for the last number of years. And Colleen, it's shifted so much in my world.
In Sydney Banks, if I'm remembering, he has is it the the 3 something principles. What is it?
Yes, he doesn't have it, but he uncovered the
Right,
3
right.
principles. Yeah,
It's
the
called the
3
3 principles,
principles.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that has helped me greatly, just understanding the difference between Bob and wisdom, and what these uncomfortable feelings are really pointing to. And we didn't know that.
And you have more control over your thoughts than you kind of think we do. So something can come in and something can easily go out.
Yeah, yeah. That we and more than anything, that we just don't have to pay attention there.
Mm-hmm.
If a part of my work with people is get them more interested in the feeling than in the thoughts. Because being interested in your thinking is the most boring life. Like I can hear myself judge and criticize and worry and stress and talk. And it's just such a boring conversation. I think most humans feel that way. That's why they're trying to get away from their thinking with shopping and drugs and alcohol and overwork and everything. It's like, let's just listen less to this ball, and let's pay less attention to up here, and let's come back to looking for that nice feeling, listening, as you said, Colleen, for that nice feeling. That is our well-being. That is our true nature. That is our self with a capital S, because that's what's real.
Right. Yeah, I get that. And so you're helping women now who come to you really kind of hone in on their feelings, hone in on their wisdom, aligning that, helping them align that so that they can make the choices in their lives they need to make, whether that's about relationships, business, careers, connections, whatever that's about, but kind of honoring that. Is that where you're right now? When you work?
Yes, that's really the depth of the work, Colleen. And often what I notice is that when people find that space and touch that space, they want to share it with the world. And so oftentimes, we then begin to look at, how they could share what they've got, because I don't know if you want to call that a career, but yeah, it is. I suppose it's in that area. It's like not everybody wants to share what they've been discovering, but a lot of people coming to me are teachers and entrepreneurs and coaches and the healers of this world, like therapists, that they really have that desire to be helping humanity even more deeply.
It's paying it forward, right? It's paying it forward and teaching others. So it's sharing. I mean, it just, it has hopefully that domino effect where you get something good and you want to share it with other people because it makes life better.
Yeah, yeah. And I always say, like, it's the best job in the world, because I don't know any other job where we get to sit with people and help them experience well-being whilst our well-being goes up.
Amazing. And that
amazing.
Is there is. I mean, you get such reciprocity out of that. They think they're getting from you, but really you're getting equally from them.
Yeah, it's just such a great service and a great job.
It is, and you still have that teaching element to what you're doing, which is what I love about the work, is that you continue to teach, like you said earlier, Grace, but in a way I didn't know I could teach. It's not just in a classroom, right? Yeah. The world is like a classroom in some respects, right? We all can be teachers. So what is your website called now? Is it gracefulcoaching.net?
Gracefulcoaching.net. That's right. Yeah.
And are you, so that's where people can find you, and you also have Facebook?
Yeah, the Facebook, I'm very active, Colleen, in my Facebook group. So if anybody is on Facebook, I do have, I do lots of videos and lots of freebies, lots of giveaways and things, especially during this difficult time for people. You find a lot in the group. So the group, of course, I can send you a link, but for those listening now, it's facebook.com/groups/Grace's group. It's kind of easy.
That is that kind of easy. That's a good one. And are you on Instagram as well, or are you mainly on Facebook? Okay.
I am on Instagram, Graceful Coaching.
Okay, at Graceful Coaching. And then you have your YouTube channel, correct, Grace?
Yes. Again, that's Graceful Coaching. If you want, I can send you a couple of links.
Yeah, send me a couple of links, and I'll pop them in the details on our interview here, and then people can find you, and I'll pop them out into my group so that people can join you and take a look at the work you're doing, which I've loved watching the work evolve, your work evolve, because then it obviously has that teaching element. I get to evolve, right? And so it has that domino effect. And that's what the one thing I really think that people have to understand, that as much as they come to you for something, that you also get something in return.
Yeah.
It's not ever one-sided.
That's right.
Are you working with any mentors or anything right now? Are you working with anybody how do you keep yourself growing?
Yeah. I also have conversations with mentors that I respect and admire. Nothing like the shiny object syndrome in the olden days, nothing at the level of advice. Rather, the mentors that I'm surrounded with now, Colleen, are people who are also looking in this direction. People that are ahead of me, they're much older than me. One of my favorite mentors, who I was just speaking with recently, she's 80 years old. She has seen this truth on an even deeper level than me. And that's what I'm interested in nowadays when I work with someone. Are they living in well-being? And have they seen it on a deeper level, whatever it is, that I'm searching for? So for me, I find my level of consciousness left to my own devices, my state of mind can drop. We kind of have that kind of conditioning where we were kind of brought up, and we kind of sometimes tend to go back down the elevator of consciousness, and sometimes I can camp out on the lower floors. But I know it now because I can feel it. And so instead of needing to have coaching every single week like in the olden days, I'll just call up my mentor every so often when I know the elevator needs to go back up and I'm not getting there on my own. And we'll have a conversation where, frankly, my mentors are simply reminding me of the truth. And I'm
what you already know. It just got lost somewhere.
Just got lost in Bob again. And so I do find being in the conversation with mentors and people that are living there and people who are seeing it on an even deeper level, I find that hugely important for me personally, but also for my clients, because what we see as well, what we see for ourselves, we get to then help others with. So it's been a really, really lovely journey for me to just get to experience the wisdom of other people as well, but them pointing me, your wisdom, Grace. Let's get back to your wisdom. Whereas a lot of the time, and it's innocently done, Colleen, and you know this, out there in the big bad world, it's kind of presented like, if you work with me, then you'll have wisdom, and when you're not with me, you won't have wisdom. And there's this kind of scary manipulation that goes on in our industry, that I've woken up to and realized, hold on, that's not true or ethical. We all have this inborn potential, this inborn GPS guiding us. And so as people lose their way, which inevitably we humans do, we just have to come back to that.
Well, you always have wisdom, right? We all have wisdom, and it's about not fearing that you don't, which is, I think, what happens somewhere along the way. that we feel like we lost it or never had it. But that's why it's so important to surround yourself with people who honor your wisdom, lead you back to your wisdom, and share theirs with you. And so that never leaves you in lack.
That's
right?
right. That's
It
beautiful.
never leaves you in lack. And I think out in the world, especially in the world of coaching, what I have seen is that there is something wrong with you. And if you just did it this way, when really, if do it your way, honor yourself, and always have support in doing it, because I think all of us need that support system.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Grace, thank you so much. Like, this was so enjoyable for me. I could just continue to talk because there's so much to say about this, and hopefully we can have you back on here again. But I love the work you're doing about helping others honor really themselves in a way that they don't know how to get there.
Thank you, Colleen. It's been lovely for me too, and I'll come back anytime.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. And please send me the links. I will get gracefulcoaching.net on our descriptions below. And please check out Grace Kelly, international coach. And she definitely has had her journey. And I think that's the beauty of what I love that you're doing, is sharing from your journey, all the lessons really learned and the continuation of learning, right? Because it really never ends.
Yeah, and why would we want it to?
Absolutely.
It's so much fun.
And your retreats, when we get back out of this COVID stuff, your retreats are in a beautiful setting in the heel of Italy, right? You're in Puglia, and that's right. Is that where you have your retreats?
That's right, Colleen. Yeah, we have all of our retreats take place here near where I live, which is a little small hilltop town called Ostuni. And when the world opens up again, we will not only be having our own retreats, but we'll be hosting other coaches and teachers who want to bring their clients on retreat here. So exciting new directions are opening up as we listen and we, follow the lead that wisdom is giving us.
That's beautiful. And I'm hoping that sooner than later that you can get back to retreats and people can get back to kind of enjoying beautiful places in the world, which is, you're so blessed to be living in one of them.
Yeah, I am. I don't take it for granted.
Right. Well, keep us posted. Keep me posted on when you do open up, and I'll be in touch and continue to follow you. And thank you for your time today, Grace.
Thank you, Colleen. Lots of love. Bye-bye.
Take care.